Hello everyone, this is Social Free State and I'm just doing this video about empathy, and it's basically I've had a bit of a panicky, anxious day today because some of my joints are in so much pain. I'm having a lot of pain with them, and what I did was, and I do this every single time, and I really shouldn't do it, but I do it anyway. And what I do is I look on the internet to see what could possibly be wrong. Why is this continuously happening, and what can I do about it? And are there any underlying conditions? And I end up, and this happens every single time, I end up having sort of like a panic attack based on what I'm reading. And then I start struggling with shortness of breath because I'm panicking, I guess. And then I read what those symptoms include when I'm reading about what it could be. And then it will say if there's shortness of breath, the likelihood is, and then it's something really horrific like cancer. And so on a day-to-day basis, I don't have that shortness of breath. It's only when I look things up to see if I'm really ill. So I know that I shouldn't do this, and I've learnt that I shouldn't do this because on a day-to-day basis, um, just living life, I don't feel those extra sensations that I get from anxiety or panic. I only get the joint pain, and that's all it is. And then when I do have the shortness of breath, by the way, what I tend to do is just have a drink of ginger tea with some honey in there, or manuka honey I put in as well. And that really sort of eradicates all of that hyperventilating that I'm doing, or whatever it is, the shortness of breath, that really sorts it out. But my point here is that a lot of the people who are taking the vaccine and who are, you know, worried about, they want the lockdown, they want all of this stuff. What they're doing is they're watching the news 24/7, and it is the news and the media who are pushing the fear and the panic and the anxiety that these people are feeding off. And it's all very well as saying all they have to do is turn off the television, and it really is the case that they have to turn off the television, but they've got to go a bit beyond that, because I still do all that sort of searching for answers when I feel my joint pain come back. So it's something deep within us. We need to search for the answer, and that's probably why people go to the doctors, where they have these symptoms and they want it checked out so that they know that they're safe. So there is that fear in the background for us to understand what is going on so that we can resolve that issue before we fear that it will get out of hand. And that's also coming from the science, from the medical system, and from the media, because we hear loads and loads of stories about people who were living just fine and then all of a sudden they died of cancer or something like that, or maybe they had they found something which meant it was cancer, and if they'd found it earlier, then they might not have had to go through the cancer, they may not have died. So we hear these stories about how late diagnosis means a death and, a painful existence. And I think that comes from all of this media again. And I don't know how we can get out of that system that we've all put ourselves into, and the only reason why I mention it today is because I got myself into such a panic attack. And I have this, I've always felt a huge amount of empathy for the people who are brainwashed, because I myself, with my own case and my own first video, you know, I got a lot of people saying to me, well, you deserved it because you opened your arms to migration and stuff. And I didn't exactly open my arms to it or anything. I just, you know, I just wasn't concerned by it because I assumed that all people would be good arriving here and things like that. So there's that naivety that we have, and then there's that need to stop anything horrendous or terrible happening before it actually happens, and our just need to be informed. I mean, the reason why I keep looking into all of this thing every time I feel my joints feeling painful, is because I just feel the need to know what is going on. And although I research other things, such as, you know, who's funding the MHRA and all of that kind of thing, and who funds the BBC and Bill Gates and everything, that's just because my mind wanders, whereas maybe other people's don't. And I do have a lot of empathy for these people, and I do understand their naivety, and I do understand that they are trusting people because they just don't see that anyone could be so evil. And also, we have been taught that evil doesn't exist in this. I mean, you know, you might hear a judge's, you know, comments that someone was truly evil, but I don't think that people really think about that word much anymore. I know I haven't done for decades until I started reading up, you know, um, satanic ritual abuse, which I still cannot get my mind around. But you know, I think that people find that sort of evil difficult to comprehend, and so it isn't that I don't think that it's that they necessarily don't want to understand that evil exists. It's probably that they just truly can't help believe that anything so evil could exist, and so they just assume that it doesn't, and you know, that's just a one-off person. But I think there's quite a lot of evil, and I think also their failure to acknowledge that kind of evil is in itself quite evil. But I also have that empathy that I understand that yes, they they are listening to this 24/7 about the COVID-19, and they are probably very. I know that someone who I know and love, I've said about Israel, you know, oh, they've got to have another vaccine soon. And she said, yes, I know, isn't it just a disgrace, really? And I said, yeah, well, the thing is, a lot of those people in Israel are are suffering with COVID as well. And she said, yeah, I know that. And I said, so will you be taking the booster jab? And she said, yes, I will be, because what they'll be doing is tweaking the vaccines each and every time so that it's more improved. So she'll be taking it, and I don't want the people who I know and love and trust and care about taking these vaccines, but they will do because they are watching the television, which is telling them that they need to do these things. But also at the same time, we do have to be cautious that they are taking in and living and thriving off that fear that the television is bringing to them. So as much as we love them, they are our enemies as well, and they might, you know, want to see things happen which to us which we don't want, such as us being vaccinated or, you know, quarantined, as they call it. And what we call it is concentration camps. So, yes, it's very, very divisive in my own mind, actually, all of this stuff, because I do empathise with them, especially on days like this where I'm looking into what could be wrong with my joints, and then I just I just go into a pure panic. And the reason why I'm not going to the doctors about it is because I don't really want to sign up and register with doctors, because I don't want them all interfering in my life as they are being told to do by the government. So it's a complete mess. It's a complete mess. But I just wanted to talk about empathy because I do, at this point, empathise with them, and I may feel very differently. In fact, I'm sure that I will do as I start to you know, as things start to intensify, especially with children. That is going to cause me to get very, very anxious and less empathetic towards those, you know, doing nothing, just accepting it as if it's a good thing just because of a television. So a moment of empathy. And I don't really know whether we need to have a continuous feeling of empathy for them or not, really. Whether that empathy should just be on a come and go basis, or whether we should always have that feeling of empathy deep down for these people. I don't know. I don't know that I do, but I do feel quite angry, and I think that that's why my joints are quite achy because I'm clenching and I'm gritting and everything, and I just my joints and my muscles are really sort of, they're not supple anymore. They're in an intense sort of, you know, frame and position, and that's all down to my anxiety to do with the lockdown rather than my anxiety to do with my health. I've not really been concerned about my health at all during this, except I did notice that these joint aches and joint pains were happening and intensifying during the lockdown. So yes, anyway, empathy. Just tell me what you think. Do